Well, now we come to the session, the segment of our program that we want questions from you. We want to hear your questions and your concerns. So if you have a question, I would like for you to stand here in line like good students. Let's hold that line, like we said earlier, and state your name, or you can come behind here and ask the question directly to one of our panelists. And please try to be concise and allow time for everyone to participate. So I really am hoping that you have some questions. Okay, thank you. Come on down. State your name and ask your panelist, the panelist of your choice, to. Yeah. Why don't you stand here? You can use a microphone. I will not stand behind you.
Thank you. Okay, well, good evening. My name is Thais Alvarez. I'm a licensed attorney in the state of Florida, as well as a teacher with Dade County Public Schools. And I take much issue with the Common Core state standards for multiple reasons. And I'm going to pose some questions of which I know the answers to, but they were not addressed, and I think that our audience needs to know the answers to these questions. And if you're not able to do it, I will be more than happy to provide you with that answer. My first question goes to the constitutionality and the legality of the Common Core state standards. Can anybody please tell me whether or not the Common Core state standards are constitutional?
You need to ask the panelists.
Oh, well, I'm opening the question up if anyone would like to volunteer to answer the question. Yes.
I actually sat in the meeting with the Department of Education, Dade County Public Schools, and United Teachers of Dade. The state had to buy into the Common Core. They had to decide if they wanted to participate. I was part of that panel. We, the teachers, had reservations because it was connected with merit pay. Many of us did not want merit pay, but the state wanted the millions of dollars that came attached to the Common Core. So when we say it's unconstitutionally, it was not forced upon Florida. Florida opted to participate in the program, even though some teachers were very reserved because we were concerned with merit pay, because there was no way to implement it in a fair way that would truly show and outshine teachers to show if they were proficient or not. You were being evaluated on students who were taking the test. You yourself were not taking that test. You were educating a group of students to take a test, and that's where your pay would come from, or your evaluation came from. We did not want this system. It was imposed by us, by 736, the state. So who brought Common Core and who brought this unlawful law? Our state representatives did. Thank you.
Okay, well, do you know anything as to the constitutionality of the federal constitution, whether or not this is illegal from a constitutional?
The state gets to opt in, and they get to decide, make decisions about what they want to implement in the school. And the state did opt.
So in other words, what you're telling me is that through the Article 1, Section 8 of the federal constitution, which does not enumerate education to be a state matter, and then therefore you've got the 10th Amendment, education would be a state matter, and by the state of Florida adopting what you say was not forced, although they were strong-armed, because if they didn't take this, they wouldn't take the money.
This is a question you need to ask your representatives at the state level, because they brought this upon us. And even though we did not want to participate, it was kind of forced upon us, because if not, we would turn away millions and millions of dollars. So to say that it was imposed on them by the federal government, no. Florida wanted to participate in Common Core.
In order to get the money. So follow the money, basically, yes.
I think what you're looking for is the simplistic answer, and the simplistic answer is simple. Based on the 10th Amendment, yes, it is illegal, but no one held a gun to anyone's head at the state level when there was money attached to it to opt in. That's the simple answer.
Okay, so we're sacrificing the Constitution and the constitutional republic in exchange for federal funding, which I want to highlight. Federal funding is a misnomer because at the end of the day, that funding is coming from the local taxpayer and it's being funneled up to the federal government. So basically, these are federal funds that are being treated like a carrot on the stick. To then strong arm us and to basically blackmail us at the state and local level to have to buy into something which is illegal. That's, no?
Well, again, our biggest battles aren't fought here. It's in Tallahassee, and this is where the brunt of this is coming from. So the simplistic answer, yes, based on the 10th Amendment, based on the article, obviously, there's a separation in which the states determine educational curriculum. But again, these states have voluntarily opted in. And if it is truly illegal, I'm sure there's a group that will spring up. We live in such a litigious society anyway, who will sue.
But we need,
Find its way through the courts.
we would need standing, which is a little bit of a challenge, but I think Luz wants to say something.
No, I think it's relative to, I'm very glad to hear that the teachers are cognizant of the fact that much of what is being imposed in Miami-Dade County Public Schools is not something that they were involved in the process, in the same way that parents were not involved in the process. This should be disturbing to everyone in the room. There is such a thing as proper and due process, which has been negated, and we must, everyone here in this room, write the governor before Thursday and say that we need to pause Common Core in the state of Florida.
You have one more question. 'Cause other
Okay, I
people might
could
have
give other
questions.
people a chance. I don't want to hog the microphone, but if nobody has questions, I have a couple.
Okay, all right. Well, anybody, because anybody else has any other questions? Okay, come on down. Yes.
Feel at home. You're among friends.
Hi, my name is Denora Rodriguez, and I have a question about the data collection and the data mining that is part of Common Core. And that's to Luz? Yes? That's part of your discussion, okay.
Sure. I think the part about the data collection, every group that I talk to, when I bring up this slide, for parents, this is the thing that goes, I mean, it just automatically catches their attention because data collection, as we all know, and if you're teachers, you've done personality profiles, you've done interest inventories, I don't care how you name them, you get information on your students. The fact is that it is much more detailed and inclusive, and we are living in such a data collection world that we've entered into another sphere of not only having the privacy, the Fourth Amendment privacy, not to disclose the information, but we're also entering into the field of security of that information. Neither of those two things have been protected. Our student privacy information, our teachers' privacy information is not secure. That's one point. And the other point regarding data collection is that it can or cannot be a money profit, enterprise. When you're allowing third parties to get information on students, and that when I say third parties, there are people that are not in the education system and have no business getting personal, identifiable information, get that information, have the potential to sell it, we have problems. You and I both know we're in a technology world. And when we start implementing something that does not have proper security regarding information, and I don't care, the school district has no business getting any information that does not directly relate to education, and they are. We've gotten surveys across the state regarding information that was asked to students. This has got to stop. So pause is the minimum. I'm serious. Pause is the absolute minimum because all these things need to be secure for the safety and security of our students and teachers. I'm sorry, did that answer your question?
Would that answer you? No,
Okay,
that
please.
was her question.
I'm sorry.
wireless device on the wrist, also the camera on the computer that they're going to be studying on to view their eye movement.
And I understand what you're talking about. There's 4 different devices, and the school district and people will say, and those people in positions of leadership in the educational institutions will say, no, we're not, come on. There's laws that deal with that kind of behavior in the classroom. You can't have cameras, the truth of the matter, it's been done. In Polk County, 750 students, they had their iris scanned. So we know that there's some kind of fluid understanding of what should and should not be done to our students. And that is disconcerting. I mean, these are facts. You can look it up on the internet. We only should be talking about truth here, not marketing an agenda. We need to talk about what is really happening in the classrooms. Yes, if I was to say as a parent, not as a technology expert, but as a parent, and someone came up to me and used one of those devices, I would say, what for? And why in the school? And who gave you permission and signed on the dotted line to allow you to do that? That's the issue of parental consent that has been removed because of the decimation of FERPA. Does everyone know what FERPA is? The Family Education Rights and Privacy Act? No longer parental consent is not necessary to gather information on students. That's another additional problem. Yes?
In the case of Polk County specifically,
Yes.
they did it without the parents' consent, and then later on they said that there was some kind of a glitch that they didn't get.
Absolutely.
So then they did away with the data, but they did,
Who's to say?
right.
I mean, I understand all the security concerns. If we can't have security in so much of our telephone calls, of our emails, as adults, I'm concerned, but for children, I'm like over the top concerned. So I do, as a parent, have a huge problem with the security aspect that has not been resolved, on top of every other problem I have with it.
Okay, so do we have anybody else with a question? You have a question? Yes.
My name is Dr. Elba Jabara. This question goes to Ms. Plasencia. In your presentation, you said that you were, not necessarily you, but your department in MDCPS is providing support to the teachers as they being trained. In terms of the training, I know that you provide the training, meaning MDCPS, and also McGraw-Hill, who's a new company that are doing with the elementary. In terms of the support that you said that you're monitoring, what are the things that MDCPS is doing to monitor the teachers to provide them with the support that they need in order to implement Common Core?
Like today, I went to visit one of the teachers, one of the participants that came to my training this past month, and I was there the entire day with her at Ponce de Leon Middle School. And I visited her, and then I found out that there were 3 other teachers who are also placed with ELL students, and I'm going back on Thursday to support them, and I support them in every way. Even if working with the students, I have been placed in schools to co-teach. I was placed the whole entire school year at Miami Edison Senior High when they became, the big news, and I spent the entire year co-teaching in an ESOL classroom with the most vulnerable children. I have letters.
If I may expand on that, just so that you know, our department is not huge. Our budgets have been cut. Within that constraint, we provide service to the schools. How do we do it? We look at CELA data. CELA is the test that the English language learner students take. We look at the FCAT data. We look at student population of ELL. So based on the lowest performing schools in CELA, FCAT, with the highest percentage of ELL students, we assign our curriculum support specialist A week, B week, to go to those schools and work with teachers. The principal, of course, decides who are the teachers that need the most assistance. Throughout the year, we look at the progress that the school is making, and some schools, some teachers pick up immediately. They need a little push, in some strategies, etc. And then we move to other schools. Your school needs assistance, you can call us at any time and we will go. Maybe your school has 15 ELL students. We have schools with 750 ELL students, where you have 30-some ELL teachers. So we look at the data, hard data, which years past we didn't have that ability, and that is how we identify the most vulnerable of schools, okay? We do instructional reviews at specific schools, and they might not fall in that parameter, but they are schools that are teetering between D's and F's and C's and D's, and again, someone is assigned to work with those teachers. I just analyzed data this past week, and of the schools that we targeted last year, I think it was something like 97% of them improved. The ELL students improved in the listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So it is effective. If we had more people, heck, we could do a lot more. Okay.
And as an ESOL teacher, I could tell you, we're operating with funds of 2006. So the funds have not kept up with what we need, because they want us to use 21st century technology, but our computers are old and everything else is old because the funding does not follow. So it goes back to, if we don't hold the people we elect accountable for the decisions they make, this is going to continue happening to us, because they're the ones making decisions and putting all these programs in. And who's benefiting? The people, Pearson, who makes all the interventions, and they're profiting on the failures of our students, because we are not funding education at the levels. Teachers have lost their positions because of the funding. Also, you need to understand that bilingual education, which is the most important thing for an ESOL student. The #1 program that works for students to excel and acquire the language is bilingual education. Look at Coral Way, KA Center. They have cut back on bilingual education in order to meet what the test requires them to do well on the test. And that's a crime for our ELL students.
Back there, did you have a question back there? Okay, we're going to take your question, and then she has a question too. So, Libby, you go ahead. Your question, Libby. A pink question.
It's a pink question. I don't know if it's a fair question to ask, but it came to my mind. And since we have several educators here from Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and we have curriculum specialists and directors, I no longer have children in the public school system, so I would know. But I know that a lot of my neighbors and colleagues, I have asked them this question, and most of them have answered me that they have not seen anything. So I want to know, what kind of communication has been sent to the parents to advise them of the changes from FCAT to Common Core, and what kind of strategies or helpful advice has been provided to the parents for them to be able to help their child in this transition? So I'm going to first ask if any of the panelists, I know Joe wants to say something. I will ask the educator as well as the curriculum specialist, because I think, and to be completely honest, I will be very candid, it was the reason why I decided to convince my LULAC council to have this meeting. I personally, when I speak to my neighbors and to my colleagues, I do not feel that the community has been made aware of these changes. And people still talk about FCAT and that are failures of FCAT, and no one has any clue that, forget about FCAT, there's something new in the horizon. I want to know, what has Miami-Dade County Public School, what has the state of Florida, what has our Board of Education done to inform parents of public school children of these changes? Mr. Guevara?
You see, Libby thought I was raising my hand to answer. I was just showing what it is, zero. Zero. Absolutely nothing. And you know what? As the first vice president of Miami-Dade County Council PTA, maybe it falls on us as parents to educate other parents. At the national level, the PTA.org, National PTA, there's a lot of material there. But you know what? I'll tell you this. I tell every parent this, and if you're a parent in the audience, please listen. I tell every parent this, and I'm not trying to start a revolution here. I never, ever, ever tell anyone who's related to the school district that I have 2 kids in the school system. No, I go down to the bare bones of the financial issue. I give the school district 2 FTEs every year, right? But I've gotten this much in terms of Common Core. And I talk to other parents at both schools that my kids attend. I go, have you heard anything about Common Core? Yeah. Really, where? I mean, the stuff you've been telling me. That's about it. That's about it, and that's about it, and it's this much. And I sit on numerous committees. And Libby, I was not raising my hand. I was just showing a zero to the audience, but thank you.
Marty, would you like to provide a comment?
Communication is a problem. It's a problem, mainly because we're not informed. And when you're not informed, there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of things that you don't know. I don't think parents know that there's ESACs. All schools have an ESAC. It gives the parents a voice at the table where you make decisions on the curriculum. In our school, I'm happy to say that we have a very active ESAC, and we make a lot of decisions through that. And our parents are very involved in that process. But a lot of parents don't even know. Some teachers we left don't even know what ESAC is, and don't want to volunteer because they have no idea what a true ESAC does. And if you have a very good working ESAC, that's a great way for parents to get involved. Our PTA is crucial because if we don't get this information out to our parents, we're going to lose the battle because parents won't know. So also parents, I think that right now we're pushing for early education. That has to be a push from everybody because statistics shows you that if a child reads by the 3rd grade, they're proficient and they do excel in school. Isn't that great? Isn't that what everybody wants? But yet, we are fighting not to fund early education. So I think there's a lot of things going on, but the most important thing is the lack of communication and information out there.
And I would like to encourage everyone that is here with Miami-Dade County Public Schools that you may want to carry this message to your principals, to the superintendent, to our school board members, and to everyone that's involved. I find that when the school system wants, they know how to send a letter home, encouraging to give money to the United Way, picture days on Tuesday, let's fundraise for this, let's do that. And something as critical and as important that is going to affect the education of our children, is going to affect the evaluation of our teachers, is going to affect the future of this society, we've gone zero communication. And I think it puts, unfortunately, the people on the front line. And Ms. Plasencia, I thank you for being here. Ms. Saraluki, I am honored that you are here. But I think it puts you in the awkward position of having to explain Common Core after the fact, after people have questions, after. This should be before. The school district, the superintendent, the board members should be proactive and say, this is coming down the pipeline. And UTD, I'm going to take this advantage to say, you have a wonderful website. You have new leadership. Please, put some stress and ask that you want your teacher, this is going to affect the teachers. You want information on Common Core sent out. Because again, communication is power. Communication, I think, is imperative so that parents can make educated decisions. The community, like you said, we have people moving into Miami and they want to know what kind of school system we have, or how are we preparing our youth for the future and for those future jobs. And again, I think that many times, it's the Band-Aid after the fact, or it's a situation where things sometimes, like you said, there's miscommunication, misconception. It just leads to confusion. And many times, I can see it when I did have my children in the public school system, is that you're getting a different message at every school. It depends on what kind of principal you have. If you have a principal that is very much, I'm sorry, I just have to say this. Maria, I'm sorry, I have to say this. If you have a principal that is really in tune with their community, they put out the information. So it has to be consistent, it has to be across the board because it's going to affect everybody. Thank you, sorry.
Oh, you have a, okay, so you have a question too. Oh, okay, no, that's okay, you can go ahead, you're already here.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I have so many things to say. Seriously.
This is a cross-examination period, right?
Well, no, actually, I kind of, if I may add to the answer to her question, as a teacher in Dade County Public Schools, I will tell you that I have gone to the school board. I have pled to the school board to give me appointments to please address and discuss the Common Core state standards, and I have been ignored completely. I have never been given an interview, not an interview, I'm sorry, but an appointment for a discussion. They want nothing of it. I have here segments of the Florida statutes, which also goes to the issue that, what was your name again? The sir? Joseph. Okay, Joseph, you keep saying that we need to go to Tallahassee to address the issues or to even...
I think that's the brunt of the argument.
Okay, well, but let me tell you what the Florida statutes say, and even the Florida Constitution. It says, the Florida Constitution says the school board, emphasis added, shall operate, control, and operate all free public schools within the school districts. And so that would be the first place that one, as a parent, as an educator, would go to address local matters. I have gone there, and I have been told to my face by school board employees that I cannot address these issues related to the Common Core there. Consequently, I took a flight out to Tallahassee, which cost me $1,000, and I took 2 days off work. And when I get to Tallahassee to speak to elected officials, they tell me, sorry, we can't help you because Florida statutes say that it's a local matter. So I'm being ping-ponged. And I will tell you that the Common Core state standards have been in the pipeline since 2009. And very interestingly, since that time, teachers' salaries have been frozen because there is no money to pay their salaries. There's no money. There's no money. But the Pioneer Institute, which is a think tank, estimates that Common Core state standards is going to cost the state of Florida approximately $1 billion, with a B, dollars. But there's no money for teaching. There's no money for the teachers, I should say. So this is all...
Last year, teachers got a raise.
$300. I got a $300 raise.
And I know that is pittance. But you're saying that they got nothing.
In effect, we got nothing. I also have a master's of accounting. And that raise was a wash, and I'm going to tell you why. They gave me a $300 raise. But healthcare went up, and now I had to start contributing to my pension. So in effect, and if you consider the time value of money, which is a concept in accounting, what I was making in 2007 is what I'm making now. With a $300 raise, I'm actually making less in today's dollars.
You should qualify your statement, since you're a lawyer,
correctly,
and say the raise that we got last year, A, B, C, D.
It was a wash.
Fine, but say...
In effect, listen, I'm not a politically correct person, okay? I speak things for what they are. I appreciate your comment, but I also want to say, I also have to add this very important point that the public needs to be made aware of. I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but you were speaking, Alina, you were speaking as to teacher training and teacher education. I would like this audience to be cognizant of the fact that 2 weeks ago, there was a teacher training at my school for the Common Core state standards. The teacher, who's the department head of the English department at my school, stood before a group of approximately 50 teachers and introduced the professional development as such. I got a phone call from downtown, and I was asked to go ahead and educate you guys as to what the Common Core State Standards, English language standards are. I said to the lady over on the phone, I said, "Oh, what do you mean I'm going to train them? I need training myself. I don't know what this is." "Don't worry, we're going to shoot you over a PowerPoint and you just parrot it off." And so basically that's what I'm doing. So don't ask me too many questions because I'm not an expert. She continues, "I am not necessarily an expert, but I have been in close contact with the experts. I may be able to speak as to the legal matters because I am an attorney, but not necessarily to the state standards. But I have been in contact with two experts, Sandra Stotsky and Dr. Warman, and they actually submitted this to the Florida Department of Education where they criticized the Common Core State Standards as being deficient. These are two experts who sat on the Common Core State Standards Validation Committee and refused, emphasis added, to sign off on them because they don't want to put their name to something that is actually lower than what we already have, and that to boot is going to cost billions of dollars. So I need everybody to know that when we talk about professional development, it's not really professional development. And to add insult to injury, when I stood up at the very end of that professional, not so, development, and I wanted to make the points that are in these documents written by experts, unlike the facilitator who was giving a lesson, I was shushed down by the union steward, and I will tell you that the union is behind the Common Core State Standards, and in spite of the fact that you very correctly stated that this will hurt teachers, that is why I'm not a union member, the union does not work to the favor of teachers. They actually work to our disfavor. And the contract, which is up for vote tomorrow for teacher salaries, is actually going to take away more than it is going to give teachers. They are throwing a bone at the teachers. And all of this shenanigans has got to stop. It is pathetic. I'm sorry.
If I can quickly address.
Okay, Dr. Feinberg has the comment.
I just have a question. As to process, I'm a little confused. Are we still on questions and answers, or we are on free flow discussion?
Well, she had a question and whatever. So, anybody else has any questions?
I would like to respond.
Okay.
We have a question. Hi, good evening. My name is Carla Hernandez-Matz, and I'm Secretary Treasurer for United Teachers of Dade. I'd like to make a few points. First, I'm not sure who it was that brought it up. I think maybe you were talking about it, but they asked, oh no, Libby, you asked. You said, what is UTD doing to inform, teachers, parents, people in the community. We've done a couple of things. We've been on CNN Latino. We have talked about it. We have talked about what our ELL students need. Obviously, it's a program that's in Spanish, so it's geared to parents that are of the Spanish-speaking community. We've been on CNN Latino to talk about what our ELL students need in general, not specifically about Common Core, even though we did address Common Core. But we also have resources. We have a resource called Share My Lesson. Share My Lesson, which is a resource that's online. It's for all teachers. It is free. And what it is, it's lessons that have been tried and true from professionals around the entire country. And they are tied to Common Core to help to just give another resource for teachers to be able to use. We also have Colorín Colorado, which is a program in Spanish that is also tied with Common Core. And there's a lot of information on that website about what can be done to promote this education for children and for the students. So we've been out and we've been making whatever impact we can. We've been on the radio, like I said, so we've gone out. I will say this, United Teachers of Dade sees, just like many people on this panel, there are some very good things about the Common Core, and there's some things that we don't necessarily agree on. Our stance is that although we think that it could benefit our students, and it could be something very beneficial for our teachers as well, we do think there should be a pause. We think there should be a pause in this high-stakes testing, because we know the effects that it causes. We know how it's implemented, and when it's implemented in such a fast manner, really, it's not beneficial to anybody. So that's our stance. In terms of the young lady that was here earlier, I'm sorry that she said so many negative things. We are the only organization that is fighting for the rights of teachers, and that's the bottom line. We are the only ones because nobody else is out there, and we're here for students, for public education. We want our communities to know that we're empowering educators and parents as well, because we know that there's a greater cause, there's a greater impact, and that we all work together. So I'm here to serve. Thank you very much for inviting me. I've only been in this seat for 5 months, but I'm really grateful to be here, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Carmen. And in her defense, I am the Hispanic Educators Caucus for UTD president, and we are working on a plan to address our ELL needs. There's many, and there's teachers across the district that we meet monthly, if not more, and we're formulating a plan as it is right now to target our ELL learners. So I do want to say that.
And if I can address the issue about professional development, I know in our department we've been doing tons of professional development, and I have been presenting for the Summer Institute for the state, across the state, from Pensacola all the way down to Miami, on ELLs and Common Core. But the the Reading Language Arts department for the district has been doing Common Core training ongoing throughout the year since 2010, and we're 2013. So if a school has not been trained or a teacher hasn't been trained, I don't know, I can't address that. But the Reading Language Arts department per se has been training teachers and administrators throughout the year, including summer.
I have a question, and this is for Dr. Rosa Castro-Feinberg. I think it's important for you to give us a little bit more information about those suggestions that were given to the governor through the task force, because I think that address a lot of the concerns that we have here. If, like you said, if governor opened the door already to implement them, how do we can help to restore it, but not only restore it, to activate whatever the task force did?
Okay. I think I told you what happened in New York, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. The reason that happened is that New York has the same screwy accountability policy that we do. Test a kid in a language, and if he doesn't understand the questions, ignore that fact and assume that the score means something. It doesn't mean anything. What it doesn't mean, I know this about history, or I know this about math, or I know this about social studies. It means I know this, this, or this about the language the test is in. Okay, here comes the task force. The task force sits down for 2 months. They come out with recommendations, and the recommendations include such things as, for those students for who it is appropriate, and it's not appropriate for all, for those students for who it is appropriate, test the student in the home language. Voila! Now you know if it's a matter of language or if it's a matter of not knowing math or history or social studies. That's one recommendation. Remember, there's 35 of them. Another one is you heard someone speak about the CELA before. Okay. And you were telling us that every student gets the CELA, which is the test of English language proficiency, applied to every ESOL student, not just in Dade, but throughout the state.
Yes.
Those tests are given. Do you know what percent, what weight those tests have in the school report card grade? Would you put your hand up again?
Zilch.
That's it. 0. And that means that schools are not held accountable for the English language, for growth in English language proficiency of their students, and that is shameful. That's one of the recommendations of the task force. Put those CELA scores in the metrics for calculating the school report. We're going to have a school report card grade, which I wish we didn't, but if we're going to have one, at least have one that includes this vital bit of information, whether or not the schools are being successful in increasing the English language proficiency of their ESOL students. That would be very valuable, but in addition, there's another payoff, and that is that if that's the case, if it's included in the metric for the school report card grade, then the ESOL kid gets to contribute to the status of the school instead of being looked at as somebody whose poor scores make everybody angry at him. So that's a winner from two different directions. That's another one. Another one is a little complicated to explain, but I'll do my best. Right now, an FCAT score is treated as a unitary thing, one thing. You get this score or you get another score. The recommendation from the task force is that you look at the child's English language proficiency, and in relation to that level of proficiency, you allocate a weighted portion of the FCAT score to this final school report card grade. That gives the student time to catch up. ESOL students can learn anything anybody else can learn. They just can't learn it at the same pace right off the bat. This gives them that flexibility in time. So there's three. There's another one that I think is just so marvelous. Right now we're always complaining or being complained to that ESOL scores are so low. Well, of course they're low. You get the kid who's just arrived in the country, speaks not a word of English, and his scores count, and his scores are going to be
Right there, low or zero, right?
as soon as he learns English and he moves out and he's gone 2 years, he's not an ESOL kid anymore. He's a reclassified former ESOL kid, and his scores don't count here. The recommendation of the task force is count the results count the performance results for ESOL students forever, as long as they're in the public school system, even after they're not ESOL students anymore. Then we know if we're really accomplishing something. Then we know if they're graduating. Then we know if they're taking algebra. Then we know everything we need to know if you can track them all that time. That's using data the way it's supposed to be used.
Rosie, I agree with you 1,000%. Before I came back to bilingual, because I wasn't bilingual many years ago, I had the opportunity of overseeing mathematics, science, and advanced academics for the district. 62% of the current students that are in advanced placement courses, dual enrollment, Cambridge, IB, were ELL students at some point. Does anybody know that? They don't.
That's a great statistic.
Because they think that they came in, and I get goosebumps every time I say it, because they think they did not speak the language, they can't perform. Okay, number one. Number two, I'm sure you've seen in the paper for the past 4 or 5 years, the AP report to the nation from the College Board. Okay, who is number one in the nation in AP scores? The Latino population of Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Okay, who comprises that? ELL students. When 21% of our population is ELL, you better believe that those kids are represented there.
That needs to be out
But
there.
it is, the paper puts it out all the time, because I make very sure that it would come out in the paper, and it comes out in the paper. Okay?
You know, I hate to say this to all of you, but we need to leave here by 9 o'clock.
I just want to add one more thing, and you know, that the superintendent.
One more thing, Mr. Araluki, only one, half of one.
We have to exalt these children, and we have to exalt a lot of people that work for Dade County Schools, because they really have fought for the children. You know that the superintendent fought very much for those 35.
Yes.
He did.
Yes.
Rosie Ugalde, who works in my office, she went there, the superintendent was on the phone, but they don't care. That's right. They, meaning Tallahassee, and Joseph is absolutely right. I sent out a letter that's going out on a weekly briefing this week, in which the schools have to tell parents that we are not meeting measurable objectives with ESOL kids in the FCAT. Why? We met listening and speaking across the board. We met reading across the board except 3rd through 5th grade by 2 percentage points. Because we didn't meet that and another objective, we have to lump it together as we did not meet. That's baloney. We aren't meeting. It's hard. It's very hard. But it puts that population down, and it's very sad.
Thank you for that information. 30 seconds, 30 seconds. When you get home, write that letter to the governor, please. It's important.
I have to give her time because she provided all that delicious food that we would not be standing here if we did not have that food because this is late now. Come on.
So really quick, good evening. My name is Geraldine Toledo, and I actually represent the parent community. I have a daughter, proudly, who is a student at Emerson Elementary. She just started, she's 4, she's in pre-K, so just getting started on the CCSS path. But first of all, I really appreciate all of your times. I know late during the week time is tough for everyone. But I also want to speak a minute on behalf of the private sector. The company that I represent has a reading program for children. We're very committed to the community. In fact, we spend most of our dollars advertising through community investment, right? We want to make meaningful connections with our communities. And that's why we're here tonight, and that's why we do a lot of what we do. But what I want to challenge you, and really it's a question to any of the panelists, is what I find being in the insurance business is that we do a really good job of talking to one another about insurance fraud. So I'll fill a room with insurance agents who know everything there is to know about insurance fraud, and that means nothing to anybody. And what I'm trying to tell you is that every time you say ELL or you say CCSS and somebody says, excuse me, that's the person you need to bring here, right? Because you guys all speak this language, and every time you say one of your acronyms and I don't know what that means, that's fantastic, because you've just educated someone that can be your advocate. If you continue to speak amongst one another without defining that for the guy next to you that's like, what's ELL? Like myself, my team who's outside and saying, what's ELL? That's a great thing, right? You're answering that question. And by the way, Ms. Araluki, part of your statistic, I was an ESOL student, proudly so. I graduated from School for Advanced Studies and was very successful at a very young age thanks to the public school system. So I have lived that. I hope to give that to my child who does speak English, gratefully. But I understand the challenges. So my question really is, how can the private sector help you? How can your DAID partners help you? And have you told them? Because I don't think a lot of people in the private sector understand the need. Whether you agree or not, I mean, it doesn't really matter. We have to educate people so that they can advocate for themselves, whether it's in Spanish or in English or in Creole or in every language we can provide to them. So definitely reach out. Ms. Acosta and others on the LULAC team have my contact information. We want to help. We've provided print material. We've provided refreshments. We're happy to provide hot meals in El Centro Campesino in Spanish so people will come because they don't eat unless you give them food. We want to provide that support. And we know it's challenging, right? Parents don't come at night. They're tired. They worked all day. We have to entice them. We can do raffles. We can entice them to come. So I challenge everyone to reach out to us. We want to help you. We want to get involved. So, contact the private sector because we're your biggest allies and we're the least informed. So, thank you.
Okay, this is it. Oh, well, as you can see very well, Common Core is a very hot topic. It's very intense. It has been very intense, and it will continue to be very intense, which means you have to become involved. Because if you want it one way or another, you have to say it to your legislators. This is the way we want it. This is what we want, or this is what we don't want. But you have to become involved. Otherwise, anything can happen. So I want to thank you again, everyone involved here, who helped make this educational forum a success. And for us, it's a success that you all were all able to come tonight and share your information with us. Thank you, panelists, council members, council presidents, LULAC, Dulce Vega, who I don't think is here, but she is with LUNESC, which is the entity that provides scholarships for LULAC. Geraldine Toledo with Infinity Insurance, Janet De Toro, with Bambini Academy, WEN, thank you very much, Casa Bacardi, UTD, PTA, and definitely Univision, who was also here tonight. And I think some of us will be in the 10 o'clock noticiero tonight. So I hope that you had your lipstick on if you were a girl. If not, well, too bad. I'll take this opportunity to call your attention to the program packet. Inside, you will find more information on Common Core state standards and how to contact your state officials. Please send them all your comments and remind them not to ignore the needs of ELLs and ESC students and our most vulnerable students, like we like to call them. We have provided you with some of the comments and concerns LULAC has communicated to them with the implementation of the new standards. Additionally, you will find information on Univision's new education website, www.eselmomento.com. This website has a wealth of information for Hispanic parents, and the timing of this forum also coincides with Univision's National Action Day, Acción por la Educación. Tomorrow, October 30th, they are running educational programming on their stations throughout the day to promote education issues. Well, we hope you have gathered some information on Common Core that you can share with your circle of family and friends. You will also find more literature on this topic about LULAC and our sponsors on the table in the back of the room. We look forward to seeing you again in the future LULAC events, and I appreciate your continued interest in the issues and trends that affect our children's education. And I would like to say that if anybody here now feels that they want to join our council or Mari's council, that we are welcoming new members. So please see us and we can tell you how you can become a member of Educators for Inclusive Leadership and the Hispanic Educators Council. And she Diaz, I think they like to do pre-K programs and talk about those issues. So good night to all of you. It was a pleasure to have you here tonight.
Oh, very good.